In a community where one of the week's big social events was the high school football game, sports news, whether from the local schools, the University of Virginia, or the news of the Washington Redskins, was of great importance. WJMA again met the needs of its listeners.
So we were doing a ton of different stuff. Just thank God Arch let us do it, I guess. It was, it certainly was a lot of sports. But I don't think music at the station was ever the primary thing. It was about the news, about the people, and sports was all about the people.
When I started doing sports, Claude White was the general manager at that time when I'd come back from school. That's when I did my first basketball game. Bill Little did the color.
In June of '60, as I say, that's when I started, and the Orange football started in September. And they didn't have anybody to do it.
Indeed, it seemed the majority of the station's listeners loved sports. The Washington Redskins games were popular. The high school football games were an obsession.
We had people back at the station that did yeoman work. They would call other stations and get scores and feed them to us. We even went through a stretch there where we had people that were out at other games that would call in live updates during our timeouts. That was quite something no one else was really doing. Or we would tape them and play them in sections. And all that was tough to manage, and we always worried about how it sounded. Did it flow well? I can remember doing two games on one night, like an AM game and an FM game at the same time, or tape delaying games where we played one right after the other, or one on a Saturday morning.
They give it though on the inside. No, they're going to run on the outside. It's going to be Jackson on the end around. Touchdown! Oh, some nice faking inside. Tom, you saw it all the way, but Jackson.
I remember doing two games in one night. And then we did, I think Madison was in a big game with maybe William Monroe. So because we were regionalized, we broadcast on the FM the William Monroe High School in Greene County against Madison. But we also had the Orange High School game on the AM.
And I don't know that Arch himself was all that interested in sports, but he knew the audience was. So if it was important to the audience, it was important to Arch.
When we would do a game, people would comment about how great a job we were doing. But I really like the way you guys do your sports coverage. It brings more to us that can't get to the game. That meant more to me, and I'm sure to Clint as well, than the award we got in 1983.
The news had been so strong at this station. It was they'd received all these awards. And I can remember Tom when he first came on board, he said, we're going to win one of those awards.
You look up on the wall and you see all these awards. And we looked up there and I said, why can't we do that? We had already regionalized JMA, and we had already done that with our news department. So it was a logical step for Clint and I to just say, why can't we do this with sports?
There was a few of us that were kind of helping out at that time, and he actually created a group of people that he knew. He had a Madison contact, I think Barry Penholler and Sue Jarrett out at Woodbury Forest, because we were trying to include Woodbury as part of our, at least, information. And George Fletcher, who was the minister of the Montford, I want to remember the church, but it's out in Montford. He was a minister there, lived in town, and myself. And he told us, I remember when he got us together, he said, we want to win one of those awards. And he took it personal.
Probably one of the first sports groups to have a woman reporter. And that was back in 1980.
We were just the fluff. We were the ideas. We'd throw them on the table. I had no idea whether they could go or not. And there would be the other people that would kind of make it happen.
In one game, we had a sideline reporter on the Orange side. We had a sideline reporter on the Madison side at Porterfield Park. And we had the referees mic'd.
Madison will have the ball at the 44-yard line. George Fletcher, down on the field to you.
Tom, I think Madison might have gotten a break there. They had a receiver over on this side. Central did wide open. Bailey couldn't see him, and he ended up fumbling.
Now, no small market radio station's doing that. No medium-sized stations doing that for your local high school sports. And a lot of stations aren't even doing that on the college level. So we were a little bit ahead of our time.
A lot of it was just ideas. It was things that wouldn't that be neat if we could? And then we'd kind of set off and we'd talk to the Gene Bossus or Lenny Cowards, or is there some way we could do this? Lenny was always so funny. Well, yeah, but...
There's no question about the fact you can do that, but you're going to have to get Arch to pay for it.
Always money. Always a concern. How could Harrison balance the economic realities of selling advertising in a small town while still offering an informative, quality product, something he considered useful to his listeners. Some programming seemed to sell itself. Others presented more of a challenge.
The things that were easiest to sell for me was sports. And Orange we never had a problem selling Orange High football. But then when basketball season came along, we couldn't sell it, or they told me they couldn't sell it because Orange was terrible in basketball. Nobody wanted to buy it. And that's when we got the idea, after Arch came, of selling it in a group.
Rather than placing ads on a specific sports broadcast, a sponsor was asked to join a pool of advertisers, the Sports Broadcasters Club, for a fixed amount of money per month. The pool of advertisers sponsored all of WJMA's sports broadcasts. Their commercials ran in rotation during games and sports news reports, assuring them exposure. The program assured Harrison a steady revenue stream.
I think that the Sports Broadcasters Club really saved us because we had an income flow that was reliable. Because if it was a sports show, Bill Little could sell anything. So the scores from the 1926 World Series, if necessary. He loved sports.
Maybe it's because I was always interested in sports. And because it was easy for me to sell sports. And because of that, we made a good impression on the community sports-wise, knowing that we did all the local stuff. I mean, I don't know of any radio stations almost that broadcast a Little League and do all these things, but we did. And people liked it, so we did it.
We started out, we did the games for nothing, absolutely nothing. And then I can remember where we split $7.50 between us. And at some point it got to be $15 that we split two ways. There was $7.50. We thought we had reached the big time. Probably didn't pay for our meal when we went on the road somewhere because you drove your own car. There was no reimbursement for gas at that particular point. Later on, of course, that changed somewhat too. But you did it because you wanted to do it.